Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to look at my watch. This always makes people relax and think that I'm going to pay attention to the time I'm talking. I won't, but I'm not a long preacher. I'm going to have to. I'm not used to having so many people behind me. If they're falling asleep, could you kind of give me the hi sign, and I'll turn around and talk loud to them for a little bit. It is so good to be here. It is so good to be here. It's good to be here with you. It's good to be here celebrating the 100th anniversary of the United Church. And I'm committed whenever I speak anywhere to begin by saying it's good to be here. Because some of you may not know, or maybe you know now because you can see my face, that I went through about 20 years of cancer surgeries and treatments. And I'm here to tell you that next weekend, it will be 10 years since the last surgery. Yes. They were unable to return my youth, but I'm here and it's good to be here. And I remember at the time saying, my life will never be the same. I will never be the same. Having had this experience of the deep and powerful spirituality of the via negativa, but in all the ways experience God in our lives, that I will wake up every morning and I will say it's good to be here. I was thinking that probably the people who were fed and the disciples who participated in the feeding of them, the 4,000, from a few loaves and a couple of fish, went away saying, it's good to be here. My life will never be the same. It's an amazing experience that it's like it changes everything. Some of you have had an experience like that, I suspect. A moment in your life, falling in love, the birth of a child, marriage, the loss of suffering that awakens us to the beauty and the wonder of the world. Many of you will have had them within communities of faith in the United Church of Canada. Some of the United Churches had a process where they were saying, let's collect 100 events that happened in our life as a community, and that we would keep track of them. Any of the congregations doing that in Barrie? I don't know. My mom's did, and my first thought was, only 100? Because there's so many. I could spend hours and hours just telling them. Let me tell you a few about St. John's. And we're a congregation that is about that big. So this is really exciting to be here with a lot of people. But one of the things we did was we ran a program called Graceful Northern Adventures, where we brought women from urban areas who were survivors of abuse and welcome them into a space of experiencing nature that might be healing for them. And there was one particular woman, and I think they were from Hamilton or Brantford, I can't remember, who said, they were camping at Puckasaw Wilderness Park, and I want to hike out to the suspension bridge at White River. Normally that's about a 7-hour day, hiking out there, crossing the bridge and coming back. And she was not what you would call a fit person. And she had these very, like her canvas running shoes were not going to give her a lot of support. One of our members said, I will go with you, and we'll walk it together. Well, they've been gone 12 hours, and we were getting ready to say, we need to send someone out to help them. And they came back in and stumbled into camp, and the other women took her shoes off, and her shoes were shredded, and they were caring for her feet. And she said, I made it. She said, I will never be afraid again. I used to be afraid of the man down the hall. I used to be afraid of the man at the store. I used to be afraid of the man at the grocery store. I will never be afraid because I did this. It was amazing. It was like being fed bread in the wilderness. When we became St. John's United Church in Marathon, Ontario, you may be surprised to know, was the first affirming congregation between downtown Toronto and downtown Winnipeg. and we were fed. And we said, life will never be the same. It changes everything. For me personally, not too long ago, I was in church. I attend worship. I'm not a worship leader anymore. And the person who was doing the theme time with the children was doing the, where do you see God? Where do you experience God? And little Ella puts her hand up and gets the worship leader's attention and says, I went fishing with my dad. And you could see we were all like, she always goes off track a little bit. She says, I went fishing with my dad. And she said, we can't, I don't always see the fish, but I know they're down there. And I was in tears. Because that is the experience so much of our lives in the journey of faith is we know God is there, but we don't always see God. And it was a rich and beautiful experience. And I'm sure that maybe afterwards we'll share some stories of your experiences in communities of faith and how you were fed by them. The United Church of Canada, of course, has huge seminal moments. The fact that in a world after 2,000 years of schism, someone had the idea that churches could come together, not just apart. We forget what a remarkable thing that is. Ordination of women, the Affirm movement, the social gospel from the prairies. More recently, the Truth and Reconciliation, our role in acknowledging our part in the colonial enterprise and trying to do what we need to do to make it right. There's so many of those kinds of stories. And, let's be honest. The thing is this is a party, so you don't run the guest of honor down. We weren't perfect by any stretch. But we did accomplish some things where we felt fed and where people felt fed by what happened. A remarkable thing. And there Jesus was in the wilderness. And he said, what do we have? A few loaves of bread and a few fishes. He blessed them, and he told the disciples to feed the people. And they went and they gathered it up and they brought back baskets of leftovers. I don't know about you, I always wonder about, was it that Jesus had some magic power that transformed the scarcity into something grand? Or was the miracle that Jesus' presence and his blessing of those items created an awareness of the abundance that was already among us? And honestly, I like the second one only because it means we can still do it. That we can still live out of that sense of abundance, even when everywhere is talking about scarcity. So they were fed. Well, immediately, I need a drink of water. Immediately, they got into a boat and went to the other side. Now, this is a literary device in my mind, getting in a boat and going across dangerous waters to an unknown shore. Welcome to the United Church of Canada at this moment. We're in a place where we need to cross some unfamiliar waters to a new land. And this church isn't one of them, but many traditional churches have ceilings that look like upturned boats. Did you know that? And the idea is that we're ready at any time to flip that boat over and go. Do we have that spirit in us? Someone say amen. Amen. We've got to be ready to flip it over. So they got in the boat, they went to the other side, they're going to the other side, and what happens? Did you bring the bread? I don't know why people don't laugh out loud when they hear this gospel. It's like, we just fed 4,000 people with a couple loaves of bread and a couple of fish, and then we get in the boat and said, Peter, did you bring the bread? I thought you were bringing the bread. And they start arguing about who brought the bread. It's a great reminder to me that we forget. That we forget the bread. We forget those moments in our communities of faith, in our personal lives. For me, that certainty 10 years ago that I would wake up every morning and saying, it's good to be here. I forget the bread. We forget who we've been as a church, as a national church, and those places we were fed. We forget the bread. And I love, because in the gospel language it says, and Jesus sighed deeply in his spirit. I think that's the way the gospel writer says, Jesus rolled his eyes. Do you still not get it? For the love of God. You just fed 4,000 people. And you're fighting about the bread. Are your hearts so hardened? You have eyes, but you cannot see. You have ears, but you cannot hear. You forget that, and he tells us, he says, I'm not going to be doing signs for everyone all the time. And it's not because signs aren't necessary. It's because they're all around us. All we have to do is pay attention. There is a miracle happening every moment. There is a feeding happening every moment in our lives. And we need that more now than ever, I think. Think about who we are as the United Church of Canada. The number one word for 2024 from Merriam-Webster's dictionary, do you know what it is? Polarization. We are the people who believe that we can come together. We are the community that says, no, we won't come apart. And we have to remember with a deep and powerful hope that we were fed in the wilderness, because that hope is what will carry us into this future. And I like Matthew Crow's definition of hope, if I can remember. He says, people speak of hope as though it was an ephemeral thing, with like spider webs and whispers. It's not. He says, hope has dirt on her face, blood on her knuckles, the grime of the cobblestones in her hair, and she just spit out a tooth and is getting up for another go. I feel so moved when I say that, because that's the kind of hope that we need to have in us. Not one that isn't active, that imagines that there's no suffering in it. Think about the world we live in. Woke. In some Orwellian twist of words, to be woke is a bad thing. To be concerned about racial injustice and prejudice of all kinds is a bad thing. Jesus and the Gospels are constantly telling us to stay awake. Stay awake. I am woke and pleased to be so. Don't ever let me go to sleep. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We could have that on the front of every one of our churches. I mean, isn't that what we believe in? Don't we believe that the inclusion of all people is the only way we will experience fullness, the completeness of human community? By rejecting some human, and that too is being twisted into something that is apparently bad. The most recent one that just blows my mind is Antifa. Antifa, you know what that is? It's anti-fascism. And it's apparently, you're a terrorist if you're anti-fascist. I think Jesus and his followers were not on for fascism. I mean, does that feel like something I have to kind of break down? And there's all those kinds of things that are happening that we need to remember that we were fed so that our hope is powerful. It was Marianne Williamson who said, hate has talked so loudly for so long. Greed has talked so loudly for so long. Liars have talked so loudly for so long. It's time for love to stop whispering. What we need is a love that is, first of all, I think it's a joyful love. It's not one that's defeated. It's a love that we go into the world with a sense of powerful hope. One that allows us to both dance and call out the injustices that surround us. And that it is essential for us to be that. It has nothing to do with whether we got people in the pews or more people. It's living out of that place. It's living out of a love that we dare to proclaim with the members of the United Church of Canada and all of those across the country that says we are committed to deep spirituality, bold discipleship, and daring justice. Can I get an amen to that? Amen. Amen.